Welcome to Cardboard Mates. We're going to be taking a look at our ultimate top 10 favorite games of all time. If you want to check out our previous list from 20 to 11, or any of my personal ones from 100 on the way up to this final list, please take a look. All right, hey, I'm Will.
Farhan.
I'm Nabil.
John.
And it is time for our final top 10 lists. I think we're going to have probably a couple of crossovers. We had a surprising number of crossovers in our 20 to 11. I wasn't expecting...
And we might have some crossovers from 20 to 11 to 10, you know.
Right, yeah, you may have to go back, and I don't know if I'm going to be bothering to go back and check myself, but if anybody's keeping score, maybe someone can tell us, who you match the closest with. I'd be interested in hearing that as well. Who has tastes most similar to yours. We all play together, so it would be natural for some crossover, but we also have some pretty varying tastes as well. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to hear what the favorites are.
Yeah, there's definitely a few games we all like, and there's some that some of us hate, and some of us really love.
That is the appropriate word. Yes.
I chose that word specifically.
That's a strong word.
Sometimes it's appropriate.
That's a strong word. Totally understandable. So again, we'll continue like the last list with Farhan.
All right. So number 10 on my list.
10. That's right.
Is also like if you remember, my number 20 was an LCG. Number 10 also is an LCG.
Oh, there's more.
There's one more LCG, and number 30 is also an LCG, but I won't go into.
Okay. Guess which one it is.
Yes. Number 10 is Arkham Horror: The Living Card Game.
It's higher.
It's definitely higher than Marvel. It's not as easy to pull out and play right away. You do have to do a little bit of more. It's more of a campaign, and certainly there are campaigns in Marvel as well. But this is more of a story and narrative arc. And each box is self-contained, but you can play characters from different boxes with other campaigns. Certainly, more of a deck building feel to this one. However, I still don't tend to lean towards that. I just really really enjoy the story, and I really enjoy the theme and the mechanics of this one. I feel they mesh really well with the theme, and it's got just a certain element to the game that I can't quite put my finger on, but I really really enjoy for some reason over the other two LCGs that I just mentioned. The other one is Lord of the Rings, which we'll talk about another time. So Arkham Horror LCG is number 10 on my list.
I always wanted to get into an LCG, but
it's a money pit.
That's the problem.
You can always start with one campaign, but then you're like, I want to try out these new characters, and I want to try out the cards that come for those to play in other campaigns and become stronger. And so it's certainly got definitely that pit feel to it. But now that I'm into it, I enjoy it, and
it's like a good bag of chips, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't just eat just one chip.
No,
once you eat one, the entire bag's gone.
You gotta.
The other nice thing of the LCG versus a collectible card game like Magic is it's a set amount. Sure, it will be a lot of money.
Yeah,
but there is an end point.
There's an end point. You're not buying packs and packs for not knowing what you're going to get.
Exactly.
So, and they have started condensing it now into like one box games with Investigator and campaign. So you can just buy an Investigator pack and a campaign pack with a core box, and under $100 you can have a full campaign to play. So there's a good starting point now for folks that want to get into it.
I will forever be sad that I didn't buy Arkham Horror while it was actually available. All right. My number 10 is a crossover from the previous video. Spoiler, if you're watching this one first. It's Yahtzee the Gathering, a.k.a. Dice Throne.
Nice.
I really like that one. It's the whole, trying to roll what you need to do the attack. The fact of, in the rules, I mean, you could play without this rule, but the rules state instead of, if you're playing with like 6 players, rather than being like, well, I'm going to attack you because you got the lowest health point and I want to knock you out, it's a dice roll to figure out who you're actually targeting, eliminating all the politics behind that. And the adventure game co-op mode, while not quite as great as I'd like, is still neat in the concept of it's such a competitive game and has been made co-op, and so many of the elements work with the way they worded it.
True, but it to me, sorry to interrupt, it feels like a bit of a missed opportunity though, because
I agree with you.
Like every time you go to a tile, you flip the tile over, you fight a thing.
Yeah,
there's no variety. The art on the tile is almost irrelevant.
And
it's not like you have to make it one tile at a time. You just jump to wherever your teammate is.
Some form of skill check would have helped. I think also
Yeah.
the life is really tight in terms of like
It is.
hit points.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that could have been improved in it. The fact that it exists at all, I think, is what's
Yes.
amazing about it. But it could have been done better. But still, the overall dice throne itself, and if you manage to find like the first edition for cheap, then you can try it out that way.
Yep.
Which is how
Or
I.
just buy a box of 2 characters.
Yep.
That's probably the cheapest entry into it. You buy a box of 2 characters that look interesting to you. And you have a 1v1 head-to-head fight.
2 characters, yeah.
I gave away my first edition one to someone, and then they ended up buying the whole boxes, and then they gave it to someone else, and now they bought the whole thing.
Nice.
So
That's good.
I started a chain.
Awesome. All right. Well, my number 10 is one that it's not a new game, but it's new. It was new to me fairly recently. And for somebody who likes, a lot of like dice chucky, dungeon crawly, Ameritrash games, this is pretty high. So it's a resource management game. It's a lot of people's favorite underwater game of all time. It is Underwater Cities. First time I played this game, it just hit like a sweet spot in my brain that immediately I was like, yeah, like this is it just sang to me, the resources are tight, but the engine building is so interesting. The theme is super cool. Making the decisions of, okay, what buildings do I want to attach to this city? Do I want the city to produce more biomass? Do I want it to produce more steel? Do I want a combination of all 3? And you've got goals you're trying to reach. And it's a bit of a race to some of those goals. It's just got so many things that work so well. And the expansion adds a bit of a starting point to kind of speed the initial sort of couple turns up, which is something that I would always play with.
I don't think it's necessary.
No, but it definitely starts you off doing cool things.
It splits you up too, so you're not
more
you're not in the same starting position.
Yeah,
which is a big draw, and a more variety.
And then like having to have so you have a hand of cards as well as placing workers on the board, and to place a worker in a spot, you've got to have the matching. You got to have you can discard any card, but if you have the matching color card, the action is better. Or you get to do the thing on the card, or something like that, right?
Card,
yeah. So your action, your turn is better, which is also very interesting.
Yep.
All right, my number 10 has fallen over the last few years from what I would estimate it at, but only because I probably haven't played it very much since the last big batch of playing it pretty much 8 times in a row. You probably guess what this is now. This is Scythe. And we had played through Defender's campaign of all the content for it, except for the upgraded stuff, but I have all the play content for it. And I still love it. It's masquerades as a war game, but it's really not. Really, it's a Euro game where you are maximizing your efficiency in production and, choosing that combination of you do the top action and the bottom action, and which orders do you do them in? So every turn is got to be a tough choice between like, okay, if I do this one, maybe I can only do the top action now, but the next turn I can do both the top and the bottom action. And yes, there's some fighting, but it breaks things up by limiting you in how many times it's even worth fighting, because you're aiming for objectives, not just winning over the board.
Right.
So that keeps it short and it keeps it punchy, and like it's got art that is absolutely amazing. If you haven't seen the artwork, look it up just for the artwork.
Am I misremembering? But don't you also get punished for attacking too much?
If you attack and there were a bunch of civilians
that's
for the opposing person, you lose popularity on the heart track, which is a point multiplier. So it is detrimental.
So it does disincentivize it. Basically.
It does, yeah.
No, it's a very, very good game. I like that.
I will stay quiet.
It's
the 4-letter H word.
No, I wouldn't go that far with Scythe, but I do not like it.
It didn't click for you.
It doesn't work for me.
You gave it a fair shake.
Yeah, I played it a few times, and on paper it has a lot of things that I would like. The whole like taking things off your board and giving upgraded actions, and I love that. But I don't know what I can't put my finger on what it is about the game, but I've never had a good play where I've enjoyed what I'm doing.
Yeah.
All right, we're down to number 9, and this game has been in all of our lists so far, except for one. So I don't know if it's probably not going to show up in your list because you might not have played it enough. But Dice Throne is my number 9.
Yeah.
I enjoy this game to a very, very high degree. But it's a little bit lower than I would normally keep it because it's only. I find it's best at 2.
It is best at 2.
And obviously you can't play it solo unless you go with the adventure campaign, which I'm not as big a fan of. I like it in its purest form when it's PvP, 1v1, and the combination of unique abilities with each player combined with the card play make this it's just a really, really fun kind of, and it's a quick kind of, you just take out the box, give each person one container, and you're set up in under 3 minutes, and you're done in probably 30 minutes. So very high recommendation for me.
It's definitely not on my list.
Exactly.
And not because I haven't played it. I have played it several times, but it's just I don't know, something about the you feel like you can do cool things.
Yeah. But it's random.
But you almost but you rarely ever get to do cool things. Like it's like I have the potential, but you're still limited to the dice rolls, and then
that's where the card
play comes in. Exactly. Yeah.
Sometimes yes. Sometimes things just kind of flub, and I've had playing games where I didn't get to do anything exciting. Right. We poked each other back and forth a little bit until someone lost. But
and that is the nature of dice chucky games, though, right? You can roll terribly and have a really bad play potentially.
There's definitely the odd times where it's I'm going for the ultimate, I'm 1/6 away, and then I have this card, and I have times where I've hit the ultimate and the other person has hit me with a card back saying, nope. Change that back. Yeah. Oh no. So there's good moments in that, but I can see where flubs would kind of impact.
For every one of those moments, there's another moment where it's oh my god, I'm 1 health point away from dying. And then you hit your ultimate and you end up winning or something, or you both end up dying at the same time, and it's it's just those stand-up moments.
One thing I forgot to mention was credit where credit is due. We were talking about being maybe marveled out, and the Marvel version of this game is wow, no, I'm here for it.
It's actually
it really works. The thematic integration, Loki worked so well, and I'm that's so Loki. I'm
and you can mix and match the Marvel and the non-Marvel stuff. There's so much variety.
All right, John, what's your number 9?
My number 9 is a cooperative deck builder game.
Ooh,
and it's one that. Where you don't shuffle too much.
Okay.
I see. Aeon's End. And probably Astronauts, though I haven't had a chance to play Astronauts yet, which is the re-implementation. But
are they almost the same? Or?
Similar, but Astronauts is more streamlined.
I see.
But Aeon's End, I just love the the boss battling element of it. You're always going up against. There's so many different bosses you can go up against. Your individual caster is different. There are aspects that are fiddly for sure. The aspect of you don't need to shuffle. Instead, you just basically put your discard in the order you want, and then when you're done, you flip your discard onto your play deck, which means you can kind of order the cards as necessary to maximize a turn. That is not one of the reasons I like it. I just like the cooperative deck building element to it. The bosses being very different and unique. And I will say the base game, the standard one, is a bit basic, but then you start getting the other expansions and stuff gets more and more interesting. I mean, if you want, there's 2 different legacy games for it now. But I really love it.
Nice.
I think the base game is why maybe I bounced off of it, because the enemies seem so much more cooler than you were.
Right?
Your cards were just lame and boring, and they had all the fun. Right?
Yeah, I could see that.
I think the expansions would probably help that.
Yeah, there was I was playing with an expansion with a friend. I was doing the thing where I was helping them open their portals faster, because they were a better caster, and then they were able to cast a whole bunch of spells. Because one of the weird things is your spells, instead of you play the card and it goes off right away, you play your spell, and then next turn it's going to go off once it's your turn if you've got portals open to cast them in. There's some weird obtuseness of it a little bit, but overall I really enjoy it. I love the different aspects to it.
Cool.
Nice. All right. So my number 9 is also a crossover with somebody. I believe it was Ferran. Mm-hmm. And it's also very similar to another game that just missed out on being in my top 10. The two are often compared to each other.
Yes.
Everyone knows what it is now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is Lost Ruins of Arnak. And it's also a worker placement deck building game. But it's like Indiana Jones themed. Like you're archaeologists trying to go to these different places and fight out these guardians and, get resources to then race up this research track. And the theme it's kind of there, but I think, and again, I would have the same caveat that you had, John. I think, so both of you guys had it on there, actually, on your list. I would, it's only up this high because of the Leaders expansion. The first time I played it, I really enjoyed the game, but I felt like it was just missing something. And I wasn't sure what that was. And then the Leaders expansion came out, and I realized that's what this game was missing. That just one extra layer of, I wouldn't even say complexity, because it's not even that complex to add leaders in, right? Depending on which leader you go with.
Layer of interest, maybe?
Layer of interest, sure.
Asymmetry.
Asymmetry.
Yeah.
Asymmetry is a good way, is what it is. But it's just so interesting every time I play. It's so much fun, and I'm super pumped for the co-op / solo campaign coming out.
Yeah,
And new characters.
And some new leaders and stuff. Like that's an insta buy for me.
All in.
Yeah. So Lost Ruins of Arnak.
I am also very much looking for that expansion because we have a crossover.
Oh, same
This
number.
is also my number 9.
Oh, there you go.
Sick.
The Lost Ruins of Arnak.
First 4-way crossover.
Again, it is.
Did you have it?
No.
Not yet.
Oh, you didn't have it?
No.
Oh,
No, but we're on the same level.
Yeah. I love it, too.
I thought you had it on your list. Okay, never mind.
But we're both at 9, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's everything you've said, plus the feeling that when you need that one more resource, one more crystal. But wait, if I do this and I do that, and then I can change it for this, and then I can play this card, and I can, and then you get there, and every turn every round feels like you start off with okay, I have a handful of cards. What can I do? But then you get there.
Yeah.
You see that cool monster and realize, how am I supposed to get everything I need to defeat him before he whacks me?
Yeah.
But then you can massage things and play stuff and use abilities, and then you've gone there.
And that some people say with Lost Ruins of Arnak, it's kind of one note because unless you go up the research track, you're not going to win. And I think that's partially true. You can't ignore the research track.
No.
But I've definitely had games where I haven't focused on it as heavily as others, and I focused on fighting the Guardians, and I have won the game.
Nice.
True, yeah.
So it's not like that's the only viable strategy.
Yeah, I think it will reward good plays regardless of what strategy you're doing.
And whether you win or not, it's fun.
Yeah,
It's a great time.
It is a fantastic game.
Yeah, and you've mentioned the components in the previous video.
Components, the
amazing.
artwork,
The art is amazing.
it's top notch. So
I'm excited
full
for this
marks.
co-op expansion.
Yeah.
Looks
The
good.
solo mode in the box is already really good. Also.
Yeah, it's true.
Speaking of good art, this next game is one that I haven't played as much as I would like, but I really love it every time I play it. And some people on this panel don't like area control games, but even they were.
Who, pray tell, is that person?
Even they were convinced that this was a fun experience. The art is fantastic. It looks gorgeous on the board. This is Inish.
Yes.
By Matago.
This is your number. This is this high. I mean, I've said that for like 4 games of yours, but that's surprising. Wow.
It's. I love it every time I play it, and I don't play it enough. And I would like to play it more. But even with limited plays, I think this game is really fun. Just because there's this tension in the game of someone's always about to win at a certain point in the game. Someone's always one objective away from hitting that 6. Which is the key number in this game, where like you need 6 of something, six locations or 6 troops or what have you, and someone's always at 4, and they have like 2 of those wild pretender tokens, so you can win, just at any moment. So I really like that tenseness in the game that other games also bring, but this one does it in a little bit of a different way. So Inish is my number 8. Really like it, and I think it's my favorite of that series of games from Matago. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think the card draft is what makes that game
Oh,
shine.
yeah.
I didn't even mention that. Yes,
It's
100%.
the tense card draft.
Yeah.
100%.
and once you know everybody's seen all the cards, then you know kind of like, oh, this is the card that'll let me move, and I know there's only 2 of those in the game.
Yeah, who's got it?
Who's got it?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so I like that tension, and then the epic cards obviously just add that randomness, a little bit of like mystery. Is like, oh, this card is super powerful, but there's only one of that in the game. So anyway,
Yeah.
it's really good.
As we've discussed recently, I think I don't dislike area control as much as I think I do. Or rather, another way of saying that is I think I like more area control games than I think I do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But I couldn't tell you why some of them just don't hit with me.
Yep.
Anyways,
All right. My number 8, I believe, won the Mensa Select Award. It's just a simple abstract game, and it's Quirkle. I find it very approachable. I've been able to teach it to a whole bunch of people. My folks, that's the only game they'll play. I've tried teaching them so many games, but Quirkle's the only thing that's stuck. It's stuck with my neighbors. Like, everyone seems to enjoy it, and it's such a simple rule base of there are 6 shapes, there are 6 colors. It's a grid. You just place it out such that there's never two of the same shape or color in the same line. And if you manage to lay out 6, you get a Quirkle. If you manage to fill 2 different lines of 6, you get a double Quirkle, which will be 12 points or 24 points. Otherwise, you score the amount of points in the line that you just added the thing to. And it's very simple, but it's very fun, I find. And it's very, it's just a very approachable game that has a big a spot in my heart, and just in terms of like the memories about it and everything. And yeah,
nice.
It's a classic.
yeah, it is. Yeah, timeless.
did it win a Spiel?
It might have won.
Maybe
Like so.
Like I think 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so my number 8. Speaking of fantastic art,
Oh,
Okay.
this game also has phenomenal art. It's a game that when I played it, I was really sad that I didn't know about the Kickstarter campaign
Okay.
because I really wish I had backed it. And because it was basically unavailable for a long time, up until fairly recently. It's kind of area control-ish. It's fantasy themed. It's got dice rolling. It's got some interesting things you can do. You can get different powers. This is Dwellings of Eldervale.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of us also like this game on this couch. I'm pretty sure. The box, if you don't have the deluxe edition, the box is ridiculously oversized.
Yeah.
Lots of empty space. But it just makes me want the extra stuff that much more. I know I'm a sucker for it. But it's so much fun. I love the theme. There's lots of different factions. And it's worker placement. But everyone has different, like the same 5 types of workers or 4 types of workers, but they each do slightly different things. You know, one faction, their wizard might be better, or one faction, their warrior might be better. So there's lots of different variety. There's lots of variety when it comes to replayability. And I love the combat mechanism in it, where
very cool.
whether you're rolling 1 die or 6, it's anybody can win. You know, you just take highest die to highest die, and whoever has the higher number wins. You know, so if somebody rolls 6 dice and it's like a bunch of 4s, a 5, and a 2, and you roll a 6, you win, right? And you can control the monsters, which is not as game breaking as you might think it is, but it's always fun to have a big monster you control. So yeah, it's always fun. It doesn't hit the table as much as I would like.
Yeah.
Such a big box.
It's a big box,
Lots
right?
of pieces. Yeah.
Relatively long play too, I think.
It's not a short
No,
game.
it's not short.
I also love the doors and getting those powers. And, what are they? They're not called encounters. What are they called?
No, yeah, I know.
It's like magic powers or whatever.
Magic,
Basically, because
That's a little bit of engine building.
there's some tableau,
Yeah,
engine
tableau
building,
building,
worker placement. Like it's got all kinds of really cool things going on. So yeah,
Yeah,
number 8.
fantastic. And I think we're all looking forward to Andromeda's.
Oh, Andromeda's, yes.
Edge?
Andromeda's Edge. Andromeda's Edge, yeah.
Andromeda's
What
Edge,
does the
Dwellings
Pledge Manager
2.0.
close on that?
What's that?
What does the Pledge Manager close on that?
I
it's not
think Lake
closed yet.
Pledge is open
Okay.
But it's essentially
on GameFound.
Eldervale in space,
Yeah,
but more complex.
right.
So that's
Yeah,
what I'm looking
I'm
for.
sure others will have more to say later.
I mean,
Yes. All right, my number 8, probably should have been 7th if I wanted to be cheeky and match numbers, but I didn't even think about it until now. But my 7th favorite, my 8th favorite game of all time is the 7th Continent.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was thinking of the other 7 game.
The other 7 game. No, not the Wonders of 7.
Right.
The Continents of 7. And this is a game I could probably see slowly drop over the years just because there's only so often you'd even want to play it because of the length and because some Citadel's coming out
Eventually.
hopefully within the next year. They're still working on it. But this game gives me the feel of adventure and exploration like no other game.
Mm-hmm.
There are literal thousands of cards and a map that would like cover a gym floor if you laid it all out.
Wow.
It's absolutely huge with different entry points, different curses. You kind of show up on this island to rid yourself of this curse, and you are stumbling around through bizarre landscapes. You are uncovering neat things. You're doing challenges, and it's all based on a kind of a deck system where the cards in the deck also represent your life. And when you go to complete challenges, you can apply the tools that you've crafted and the artifacts and things you've found towards completing different challenges, but you're always going to kind of come up short on the number of stars that are required to complete it. So then you have to decide, how many life cards do I draw and hope that the symbols in the cards match up to make additional stars.
Mm-hmm.
So you're constantly burning your lifespan away just for higher odds of success.
Nice.
And you have to decide that before you draw. So do you want to like make sure this gets done, or do you want to face the consequences and risk it?
Right.
And it's tense, it's long, but it is such an amazing experience.
Nice.
Very nice.
Now, the question that I would have is, if we finish Sleeping Gods, I wonder if that might be higher.
I don't know.
No.
I don't know.
We'll have to wait and
We'll have
see.
to figure that out.
We'll
When
have to finish it
At some point. Yeah.
And
All
finish
right.
the list, because who knows?
We also haven't finished the list. This is
True.
Yeah.
True.
Number 7 on my list is going to be. It is number 7, right?
Yes.
So yours was number 8.
Yeah, you're on 7 now.
Okay, yeah. So number 7 is a midweight Euro game that I really enjoy. It is going to have an expansion very shortly that is not released yet, but I'm highly, highly anticipating that one because it will make the game more complete. The game is Iki.
Okay.
Really, really enjoy this game. It's one that we've played, I think, 2 or 3 times, and all 3 times it's been a fun experience. The unfortunate part of the only unfortunate part is that there's not enough content to warrant kind of replayability. I think you'll see most of the end game cards and the round to round cards, after you've played it a few times. Same kind of complaint I had with Outer Rim, but that has the expansion now. So this one hopefully gives the game more legs, which I'm really looking forward to trying out. And I think it adds a couple more components to the game. But yeah, beautiful art, lovely components just out of the retail box. So, no need to splurge on those extra deluxe pieces, and really, really tight and enjoyable mechanics that the game has to offer. So yeah, Iki is on my list at number 7.
Yeah, beautiful game. Well, I think we all are big fans of Iki.
Oh yeah.
I don't think expansion is necessary. There's a lot to experience in the game, but more variety would be definitely nice. You do see almost everything every game.
Yep.
My number 7 is another one of those lunchtime games that I was talking about before. And, you definitely have time for it at lunch because it's only going to take you 10 minutes. No matter what.
This is the one.
Yeah, it's Fuse, which is a cooperative dice placement game where you have 10 minutes to defuse all the bombs. And if you manage to, you get your score based on how much time is left, as well as the cards that you've defused. And these are done with dice placements of such things as building a tower of 2, a red dice, 3, etc., or other different types of placement requirements. And it is a game where if you play with the same group often enough, you literally get better at it. You start actually doing your card and the other person's card at the same time, because whatever dice is left ends up undoing the work that everyone else has done if there's a dice left. So you're trying to make sure you use all the dice while making sure you got the optimal placement. And yeah, you play it enough, you recognize the cards, and you go, don't take that one, I'll take that one. And it's just a lot of fun. And it's a great filler because you've done it in 10 minutes no matter what. Though if you don't like real-time games, don't play it.
Very stressful it can be.
Yeah, for sure.
But
Almost like you're defusing real one.
Almost the real bomb without
But not quite.
Not quite.
Not quite.
No.
Not that I would know. All right. That's a good one, yeah. Okay, so my number 7 is a game that I kind of avoided purchasing and getting into for a little while because it seemed a little too intimidating. And too crunchy, too rules heavy from what I had heard about the game. But now that I have played it several times, it's possibly my favorite solo game of all time. Spoiler alert. And lots of other people who have played it have it very high on their list of solo games. This is Mage Knight. It's just like it's like an open sandbox. You're this mage knight traveling across the land, interacting with these different tiles, and you're delving into dungeons, and you're assaulting keeps, and you're attacking wizards' towers, and you're gaining upgrade. You have a deck of cards that is pretty basic to start, but you're going to be gaining advanced action cards. You're gaining spell cards. You're gaining units that you can control and deploy in battle. And there's so many different ways to accomplish what you want to accomplish. And there's also, the battles are also, can be pretty tight. You have to think about, okay, do I want to take all these wounds to beat this enemy? But then the wounds are clogging up your deck. And there's different like scenarios you can do. I've mainly done just the basic like assault a certain number of cities scenario. I've also done the one of the expansions has like an AI like enemy that's advancing along the board at you, and you're trying to avoid them until you're beefy enough to take them on. And that mode's a lot of fun too. It's Volcaire's Quest or whatever it's called. But yeah, this game it's a big table hog. It's complex, but there are some really, really good online tutorial videos that I use to learn the game. The rule book it's a bit of a beast.
Multiple rule books.
Multiple rule books, right?
Yeah.
And then the game itself, it's very, very prone to AP because you can play all your cards and then be like, oh, wait a minute, what if I do it this way? Take all your actions back, play all your cards in a different way. So that's why primarily people play it as a solo game. Because you can take all the time you want when you're playing solo. Whereas if you have like two other guys waiting for you to take your turn, it's kind of ridiculous. So yeah, that's my number 7.
Yeah, fantastic
Mage Knight,
sandbox feel. There's so much to do and explore in that game.
I mean, given how popular it is as a solo game, I'm surprised there hasn't been any more expansions.
Well, there's quite a few already.
There was a few already.
Yeah, but they've been out for quite a while. So I'm surprised it's just like nothing more.
Yeah, I guess it's not really.
It's not approachable.
It's not as approachable.
Yeah.
True.
And it's people who love it, but it's not like one of those games that's going to be talked about forever. Like
outside of
those who like it. It's not like it's not as approachable as Cascadia. Or like or it doesn't have as Pandemic. It's not going to be one of those types of games where everybody knows about it.
Or even a lot of other dungeon crawlers.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of like specific rules for specific things that you encounter that add to the complexity and
they do a really good job of having a bunch of reference cards that tell you how to interact with each element on the tiles, and those help a lot because there's no way that I'd remember how to interact with each different thing. Like there's tombs and there's dungeons and there's keeps and there's towers and there's ruins and there's mines and like all these things. They all work differently.
Yeah, maybe if I can remember the rules well enough, we'll play through at some point.
Yeah, I can. I'm always down for a play of Mage Knight. You'll
have to refresh me on the rules.
I can teach it to you. Yeah.
All right, my 7th favorite game of all time. This one is relatively new to my collection, I guess, but I played it the 8th continent of Wonders.
It's your number 7.
No, so there is currently 2 different boxes available for this right now. I like them both pretty equally. And there's just so much to explore in this. And this is Imperium, Legends or Classics.
Yeah.
And there's already 8 factions in each. You don't really need to own both unless you just want a ridiculous amount of stuff to compete. But if you want to take, the Egyptians and fight against the Vikings, you can do that. You can play everything solo. I would probably recommend 2-player max because it is a very long game. But it does some interesting things with deck building, the concepts of deck building that turn it on its head that you don't really see in a lot of other deck building games. It is slow and methodical in some sense, but you feel the growth of your nation or your civilization throughout the course of the game, and they all handle extremely differently in how they progress. And I think that sets it apart both thematically as well as the AI is, again, not the quickest, but they're all handled well and smoothly enough that you can feel like you're playing against that faction, in a simplified way compared to another player. But you just playing around with fighting different factions, trying to get as far as you can in those individual factions. There's so much to explore and see, and I know there's another big box coming soon.
Yeah,
with 11 new factions.
Horizons, I think it's called.
Horizons. They're adding Inuit.
All new factions too.
It's all new factions.
Not like a mashup of the other two.
No, it's all new ones, as well as some new mechanisms to add into the older ones as well.
Wow.
So I'm excited for that too.
Interesting. Number 6 for me is going to be a bidding game, a blind bidding game, and a set collection game about dwarves.
Okay.
And this is Nidavellir. It's a coin kind of building game, so the numbers that you're using to bid keep getting better and better, and you kind of get rid of one of your old coins to get a better coin, combine the other two that you're not using. So it's got that coin building mechanic, so you're slowly leveling up your bidding power, and someone can get a 12 and you're like, oh, I didn't know you had the 12. That's pretty good. And then you use that, and then you upgrade to more, an even powerful, more stronger coin than them, and then you keep one-upping each other throughout the game, and then you're competing over several different factions of dwarves to and they score differently. You're basically creating a band of dwarves to score points at the end, and then there's a component of the game where if you're the first, you're the highest at the halfway point, you get a perk as being the leader of that faction, and you get another bump. So it's got a lot of fun mechanics. It's a very simple game. You can teach it to a number of people, which is I like the low barrier of entry, but it's just got enough to interest a little bit advanced gamers as well. So really enjoy it. The artwork's kind of it's not the best I've seen, but it's really nice, well done. It's got cool black and white art. So enjoy it. Nidavellir.
My number 6 is probably the newest game I've got on the list, and it completely and utterly, I think, for me, replaced Terraforming Mars, and that's Earth.
Ooh,
I really liked it. Every play I've had of it, from solo to multiplayer, it's got the combo feel I love from Terraforming Mars. It's relatively streamlined. It's got a lot of neat scoring opportunities, and just something about it just really clicked. And there's so many cards, and they all do interesting things. So you'll pick them up and all right, that wonderful feeling. Like, all right, well, this card could be either something I use to discard to do this, or I can actually build this into my tableau. It's got so much stuff in it. I really enjoy it.
Nice.
My one complaint is the having to build up the towers, and some of the wood pieces do not fit perfectly. So you got this tilty tower, and you're like, please don't accidentally hit it. Oh, shoot, I gotta go build it up again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is I have yet to play this game, but I've heard everything I've heard about it is just like people rave about it.
Yeah, I think I think the solo is unfair. Or the solo player
Gaia
just gets so many points for everything. It's very hard to beat.
Which I just
even on
realized,
easy mode, it's very hard to get that many points.
I just realized the pun in that name, Gaia, with the AI in the middle.
Well done.
Yeah.
Okay, so my number 6 is a very popular game, so much so that it's kind of transcended the hobbyist realm and made it into mainstream, I think. And it's got beautiful artwork. It's an engine building, sort of tableau building game, and I may or may not have purchased some totally useless components for it. Yeah, I think Will knows what it is. It's Wingspan. I love Wingspan. It's so much fun. Learning about the birds. Every time you draw a bird card, like every bird card is unique, and it's a massive stack of cards, even in the base game. And if you have the expansions, the stack is just like it's monstrous.
Huge.
And the birds have different powers that trigger at different times, and each of the bird cards has a little factoid about the bird, which I find really interesting personally. And it's all like original art. It's not like stock photos of the birds. The components are really good, and it's got that feeling of building up your engine, and then when you run your engine, you get so much stuff. But it's still like you still end up like maybe like one turn short of doing everything you want to do. And that really encourages wanting to play again and again and again. I've played the app of this game so much because the app it's one of the best app implementations that I have seen. Like it's the birds are animated. There's sounds.
Oh, cool.
The you can have the narrator read all the factoids whenever a card is played for all the birds. It's such a good app. But I still I still would rather play the physical game whenever possible. But yeah, Wingspan.
Good choice.
Always down for playing it.
Also, some of the birds are somewhat thematically appropriate in their actions. Like, this is definitely a bird that's going to be eating other things. So it swoops in and tries to eat other birds.
Exactly, and the food that you need to play the birds is thematically appropriate all the times too.
Yeah.
A lot of really a lot of thought and a lot of care has gone into this game.
Yeah, it's excellent. My number 6 favorite board game of all time should probably be higher on my list, but it's just so tense. I can only take so much of it at a time. Even though I love the game and I love the theme.
Yeah,
Dune Imperium is like I'm a Dune fanatic. I guess it's the only real IP that I've latched onto. Sure, I like Star Wars, I like Marvel, but Dune is the one that I've always been with.
Yeah,
and since I've discovered the books in a box in my when I was a child, but the mechanisms. The worker placement, the deck building, the cards, the actions, the tenseness. I think it's balanced on a knife's edge.
Oh yeah,
and every game we've played of this has just been tense and tight, right to the end.
Yeah.
Occasionally with some surprise victories. Occasionally those guess what? I had this 2-point victory card or something hidden, and even though I lost that combat, I still won the game. Or different ways you could do a combat heavy. Do you want to buy the Shai-Hulud 9-point or the 9-cost cards that just straight up give you a point? The spice must flow. The game is just so well balanced, and the expansions they're not necessary. I think they're both amazing.
I really like Ix. I haven't played Immortality yet, so I wonder if with Immortality it'll go even higher. It'll come back in the top 10, but I really like the technology track in Ix, or the shipping track and the technologies in Ix.
Yeah. Very good choice. Yeah, I love that game. It's good. All right, so we are into the top 5 now.
Top 5.
Yep. Top 5 in a home stretch. Number 5 is a game in the same, category as Dune and Arnak, but it's or I guess the same makers of Dune.
This is a noisier game.
Well, it's a noisier game. It angers dragons when you steal their stuff from their lair. It is Clank.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah.
I love all the games in the Clank universe, but if I was to put one in my top 10, I would put Clank Legacy.
Okay.
As the best version of this game. If you were to play a number of games in a row with the same group, I would go with Clank Legacy. If you're playing one-off, then I would just go with the base Clank with an expansion or two, like one of the maps or
more so than Catacombs.
Catacombs I've only played once, and I found it.
I think it needs more.
It needs
more expansion.
Yeah, maybe
to shine.
Yeah, I enjoyed Catacombs quite a bit, and I'm happy to own it. But yeah, Clank Legacy was a fantastic experience for our group. We enjoyed playing through the whole campaign and just kind of seeing what comes at us and the twists and turns that the map took as you uncovered new boxes and adding new cards to your deck and going in to find new cards. It's a really, really good experience, and I'm happy to play Legacy again. However, I think there's a Legacy 2 coming, so I'm excited to
Yeah.
to try that version of the game. So Clank, my top 5.
We can start another Legacy campaign.
That we
then
will
not
not
finish
finish.
it.
But I think we
I'm
will
like-
finish this one because I think you guys will definitely
I
enjoy
don't know.
it.
I'm like
I'll
the
be
first
there
one
for
yet,
this
so
Yeah. Hopefully there's no spoilers in 2, so you won't have to play it
Right,
anymore.
Yeah.
right. It's not like a direct continuation.
Correct.
Hopefully,
I don't know. I don't know if it is.
I'll find out.
hopefully not. Yeah.
we'll play one while you're on vacation, and we'll
Yeah.
we'll catch up one
That's
soon.
right. It is a dungeon crawl, technically.
It's,
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I guess in
The one
truest-
dungeon crawl that
I'd
you like.
love it. My favorite dungeon crawl.
My number 5 is a push your luck card game. It's small and portable unless you buy the new complete edition, where it gets a bit bigger but has better art. And that is Port Royal.
This is your number 5. I thought it'd be your number 1.
No, I got something else saved for number 1, but I
Interesting, okay.
really, really enjoyed Port Royal. They flip the card, you make a tableau of offers for everyone, and then if you hit the same color ship twice, you bust. There's some mitigation options, but just the amount of times there's been like a Hail Mary to get exactly what was needed, and it happened. And just the choices, and the fact there's so many different ways to play. You can play with the expansion with the co-op mode. You can play with these contracts that add different things. But even if you just play the base one, which is probably my favorite way, it's fast, it's interesting, it's fun. I really love Port Royal.
Nice. I just played the big box solo campaign. I just started the other day.
yeah.
It was really good. It's hard, so I had to play the first scenario a couple times, but it gives you money to make it easier the more you play it. So I really enjoyed it, and you're looking for certain objectives to flip through the story, and I enjoy it for being a small box card game.
It's super fast. When you've played it enough times, you can actually finish it in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
10 minutes.
That's
If you've played it enough times.
I
Which,
guess.
again, it
Is
was
it
a
still
lunch
fun
game.
at that point, though? It
Yes,
feels
it
like an
was.
exercise and just like
Yeah.
flipping cards.
Oh,
10 minutes.
we got there
You
anyway,
got there, yeah.
back in the day.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, awesome. So my number 5 is another dinosaur-themed game.
Aha.
Shocking, no one. It's a deck builder, and for a long time it was my Grail game. That was out of print, couldn't find it anywhere. No one had it in the secondary market. A couple of people were selling it on BGG in the States, but it was like $200 plus like $100 for shipping because it was a big unwieldy box. And then they ran another Kickstarter campaign successfully, and I finally got my copy a couple of years ago, and I absolutely love it. This is Apex, the Theropod deck building game. So it's a little bit more obscure, and it's a bit harder to find. I know some retailers in Canada do still have copies. This is
It's not as hard to get anymore. Yeah.
not anymore, but not many of them have it. It's this is specifically the collected edition of the game, which contains everything, all the expansions, everything. So essentially in the game, you pick a species of theropod or predatory dinosaur, or not even a dinosaur. There's also megalodons in the game. You can be the megalodons. You pick a species, and it's a deck of cards, and you are trying to hunt prey items, which is basically the market, using your what they call hunt points. But the twist in this game is that you have your own private deck of cards that you can buy from to add to your draw deck. There's also another deck on the main board, the Evolution deck, which you can buy cards from to sort of beef up your deck as well, to give you different things you can do. And there's wounds that you get when you attack certain things. There's dinosaurs in the market will in the game trail will they'll escape if they're alerted to your presence and trample you, or you can also set ambushes and then play your ambushes from your ambush point to beef up your attack. And then in the solo mode, you fight a boss in the end. I would say this game, it works best as a solo game.
Okay.
The multiplayer is good. It's okay. But it's got a little bit of take that I could do without. Where you can attack another player and steal some of their prey that they've hunted, which is how you buy cards in this game, is by hunting prey. But the solo mode it's so much fun. The rule book could use some work, and it's a bit tough to wrap your head around some of the rules I found. But it's just so thematic. You feel like you're a T-Rex. You feel like you're playing Velociraptors, just getting a bunch of these little Velociraptor cards and just swarming dudes.
Cool.
But yeah, so they're Apex Theropod deck building game.
I like it.
Nice.
Number 5.
All right, my number 5 is Cascadia.
Yay,
nice. There we go.
This was the Spilljars winner last year, and I think it deserves every vote it got
For once.
For once.
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Something in my throat.
Yeah. Oh, sorry about that. It was the chili.
Must have been the chili, yeah.
But this game, I think, works with just about anybody. Every time I play it, is not only is it a fairly chill experience, but the puzzle is engaging and interesting. You always feel like you're building something fresh and new each time you play. There's enough variety in the cards and how the various animals will score that you're never quite playing the same game twice. In terms of scoring. You can play solo, which actually works very well and smoothly as well. There's some challenges, but just to sit down and with almost zero setup, you're just drawing tiles and drawing tokens. And
Nice.
at the end, you have a nice little map that you've laid out and the score, and you're good. And I've played this multiple times with my wife as well. And our joke is she always beats me by like 1 point or 2 points. Or our closest was she beat me by a single pine cone.
Yes.
Which was the tiebreaker, was most pine cones.
Wow.
So like we've had just an amazing time playing this game.
Nice.
Is this on all of our lists? No.
It's not on my top. It's not on my top 20.
No, it's in your top 10.
It's very close.
Very close, yeah.
We all enjoy it.
We all like it a lot.
It's a phenomenal game, and you could teach it to just about anybody.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, we are up to number 4, and it is a crossover yet again. It is in the same family as Clank, and it is Will's number 6. It is Dune Imperium.
Oh.
Specifically with the Rise of X expansion, which I think elevates it to a top 5. Without it, it'd still be in my top 10 because it's that good.
Mm-hmm.
I have played it with Immortality, and I don't think Immortality is necessary. I don't think it elevates the game, but just kind of makes it different so that you're not getting the same stuff over and over. However, I love this game. It's like we've all echoed this sentiment. It's so tense every time you play it, and very, very close, very enjoyable. The cards are all unique as well, so I don't think there's any duplicate cards in the card deck. There might be a couple.
I can't remember.
I think there's a couple.
Might be a couple, but
No?
the deck's so big that I don't think you usually, unless they're right next to each other, you never see the.
I think if there are, they're not named characters.
Right.
I think the named characters are unique.
Correct.
There might be like some generic.
Yes.
Something.
So again, I won't say anything that's already been said. So I'll leave it at that. Dune Imperium, highly recommended. John, you don't have this in your top.
No, I don't. I do love it. I haven't played it
I'm still
enough.
waiting for a 4-way crossover of this.
I haven't played it enough to put it on there yet.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
That's okay.
Do you find that Immortality overcomplicates it?
No, it doesn't. It still keeps it the same complexity.
Okay.
Maybe a touch more, but
a little higher.
a little bit higher, but not to the point of overcomplicating it.
Oh,
so it's just different. It adds a little bit of that Arnak track situation where you're going up the track.
Right.
So it kind of gives it that feel of going up, but you don't same as Arnak. You don't need to go up that track to win.
Yeah, it's not the only viable strategy.
It just gives you another avenue to get stuff. Yeah.
I guess comparing the two, I would say Arnak's probably the more relaxing one.
It is.
Oh, I mean, hands down.
Not even close. Yeah, Dune is very, very tense. Yeah. So
Arnak definitely has more management in like how you can kind of like the rounds I think are longer because you're constantly making small moves towards your objective.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Dune is like occasional big splashy moves.
Yeah.
But then tense.
yeah, in Arnak you don't have to place a worker to do your turn.
That's true. That's
can
why I think
true.
Dragon.
Yeah,
You have two workers, but you do 20
play
turns.
cards,
Yeah.
you can do other stuff. Yeah.
And it's got more of that, like you said, like, oh, I have this resource, but I need that. How do I get from A to B?
Yeah.
You know, I make this change, then I go here and do that, and then now I have resource. I need to go up the resource track. You know.
Yeah, Dune. You took my spice.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't remember really enjoying the fights in that one, but
In Dune Imperium.
yeah.
Yeah, they're probably the if you're going all in on the fight, someone does come in on the short end and do what stings.
But the fact that you could try to do something else and like, all right.
But yeah, even if you're not going for a combat heavy strategy, if you win that one fight,
that gives you 2 points.
That gives you 2 points.
Yeah,
that could be the difference.
That's a fifth of the way to the victory.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. My number 4 is surprisingly the first Bruno Cathala game on this list, which, considering how much I like... Oh, no.
No, on your list? Or
yes, on my list.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. I was going to say, I said 5 Tribes earlier.
No. And it is 7 Wonders Duel.
Yeah.
I like 7 Wonders, okay. That's why I stayed away from Duel. I'm like, whatever, 2-player version, who cares? And I played it. And oh my goodness, what a difference it makes. It's just such a... I've played it on the app at the very least so many times, and every time it's been really close. And it's just been like, okay, I am losing on all these tracks. What if I can just get that one science? Yes! It's always so much fun. There's so much interesting elements to it. Absolutely love that game. And the one side, some cards being covered until you flip them and adjust.
Yeah, that's an awesome mechanism in every game.
Excuse me.
Yep.
Love
that game. It's just awesome. Fantastic. If you like 7 Wonders and you have been like going Duel, whatever, and 2 players, no, try it. It's so good.
Even if you don't like 7 Wonders, I think.
Yes, I agree. Like I was just okay with it before, but 2. It's my number 4 game.
Number Duel is.
And Duel has an official print and play solo mode as well.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's a simple set of cards. I'll show you later.
I did not know that.
I'll show you later.
It's
a simple set of decision cards, and it works really well. And there's different personalities that change up how they have plays.
Interesting. We'll show you later. Interesting. All right. This this is definitely got to be a thing later.
All right.
Nice. So my number 4 is a crossover with one William over here next to me. Mm-hmm. It's like also one of those games that kind of replaces Terraforming Mars for me. But the theme is just more up my alley. This is Ark Nova. I love the animals. Like nature theme is always good. I mean, this is a zoo, but still looking at the animals is always nice. And it's got that massive stack of cards, and there's so many different things you want to do, but you can't do them all. So you got to kind of prioritize. What am I going to do? I really want to play that tiger, but I'm never going to have the symbols, nor have $80 to spend on a tiger or whatever it is. I also love the solo mode. And while the multiplayer game, it can last long. For a 3-player game, it can take you 3 hours. The solo mode, you can bang out a game in 45 minutes. And
you start further up the track. Like you start with like a high income.
Depending on how the difficulty setting you want to play it on, yes. But ultimately, you're still trying to cross, your whatever research track with your conservation with your money track or ticket sales. Yeah, thank you. But it's such an interesting puzzle every time I play, and the deck is large enough that it's different every time. And the expansion is just going to make it. I'm hoping it's going to just make it even better. Mm-hmm. So Ark Nova.
All right, my number 4 game is probably one of the largest in terms of sheer components and little itty-bitty pieces of rectangles and shapes and sizes. Mm-hmm. It is a absolute feast of a game.
That's
a giveaway. It's a giveaway. It's Feast of Odin.
Yeah.
So a Feast of Odin. This is Uwe Rosenberg's largest, probably in terms of table size, game and sheer number of just tiny little bits and components, which is thankfully well organized in plastic trays that it comes with. It really helps simplify setup and whatnot for the game. I know people will complain about there being maybe too many worker spots. There's like 60-something worker placement spots. It can add a little bit to the teach, but none of them are really so different from each other that it raises the complexity too much. Once you kind of know what this group of spots work, like how they work, then there's just different flavors of the same thing. Mm-hmm. So really you're only learning, 10 different flavors, and then it's just options and flexibility depending on what you want to do specifically or what someone else has taken that spot of yours. And then after that, it's Viking Feng Shui. You are organizing all of your worldly possessions on the floor in your hut, all nicely arranged.
Yeah, if Skyrim hoarding was a board game,
Skyrim hoarding,
that
yeah.
meme, it's Feast for
It's
Odin.
exactly this wheel cheese goes here.
Yeah.
Like the 30th piece of armor, like is going to go
Now,
here.
where do I put Lydia? Like,
Yeah, and that's all it is. But there's just so much to explore. You can go whaling, you can go pillaging, you can go explore some extra small island and take that and start expanding on this extra island as well. Building different buildings. There's just so much to see and do. The card play even separates you more from your opponents, so you start to gain different powers and abilities to do different things. Every game of it is while there's just so much to do, it has that sandboxy feel where you can go and explore and do all kinds of stuff. Maybe I'm not doing the best point wise, but I'm having fun doing it.
right. And this is like, I was interested in this game for a long time, but I had the same issue with I had with Mage Knight. I always felt like it was too overwhelming and too intimidating for me to get into it, so I kind of stayed away from it.
Yeah.
But it really isn't.
Oh, it's not.
It really isn't as intimidating as it seemed.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just a me thing, but yeah.
No, I agree with you. Yeah, I usually don't like heavier big box games. This one has the feel and look of it, but it doesn't. When you're playing it's very not all that complex.
Yeah.
So.
Once you realize again, all of this color is the same action.
Yeah.
It's just different flavors.
It's just different
It's
stuff.
easier to learn.
Really love it. I really like that game.
It is really good.
Number 3 on my list, top 3 now, is another exploration game, but a whole different time and space. You are exploring new planets with your crew, and you're encountering strange new worlds and potentially strange new fauna and terrain and landscapes. And this game just takes me into that world without actually physically being there. This game is Unsettled, and unfortunately, the bad thing is this game's not as readily available as that should be because it's limited to Kickstarter. I have, and of course, the stores that chose to back it, can connect you with that game, but it's really hard to find. But if you can find it, or if you have the opportunity to play it, I would highly recommend at least giving it a shot because it is so thematic. It is dripping with theme and flavor, and the stories it tells are just second to none. I found in board gaming, the components are top notch. So it does a lot of things really well. It's not a native solo game, but you can play it two-handed solo. But it works really well as a 2 to 3 player co-op, and really has no combat. Like you're stranded on a planet. You're trying to figure out your way out of that situation that you found yourself in. Whether you're on a desert planet, whether you're on a ice planet, or or on a plant planet, or you have some sentient beings that are in the planet, and you're trying to figure out a way to communicate with them and get what you need from them to be able to set yourself up with your ship again and take off. So, every play I've played is amazing. And each planet gives you 3 different scenarios, so you can replay the planet and have a different problem to solve. So,
it's like each planet is a different puzzle.
Yeah,
with 3 flavors of that puzzle.
Correct. Yeah,
and it's not just land somewhere, blow a bunch of stuff up, and then get out. Right.
No.
This game, like I've only played it once or twice, maybe.
Yeah.
But it kind of gave me the feeling of like watching an episode of Star Trek.
Yeah.
Where it's a self-contained thing. There's like an away team that goes down, and they have some problem to solve, and it's not a linear necessarily. Like I gotta find my way out. You know, they may have to talk to an indigenous species and negotiate their way out or something.
And it's just survival. Like, how do I stay alive long enough so that the planet does not engulf me? And
and the writing is so good.
Writing
is very thoughtful.
It's funny, but it's not to the point where it's like cheesy, annoying, funny. It's they've done it really, really well.
It's a fine balance that they've struck with that writing.
Yeah.
I love the giant acrylic puck.
All right.
But great game. Great game. All right. My number 3 is another push your luck game. I love pushing my luck. And it's probably one of the more popular push your luck games. Pretty approachable. It's got almost like a mixture of deck builder and push your luck, and that's Quacks of Quedlinburg.
Very nice.
Great.
I've introduced it to so many people, always had a good time. The amount of times just like, oh, do I pull Shylock or not? And there's been a couple of times where someone's managed to go on the edge of the spoon and over. I'm like, wow, they got really lucky. And sometimes you get just, bad luck and you bust right away.
Yeah.
But every time I have a great time. So
Fun game.
I did end up having to encapsulate all the bits because,
You have to, if you play it enough,
Yeah. Some of them's like, wow, I can actually feel which one that was.
Right.
All right.
Yeah, what do you think of the expansions for this?
So I have not played the second expansion, but the first expansion with the witches, I love.
I think that, I don't think the second one is necessary. I think like it overcomplicates things a bit.
Yeah.
But the first one is just more variety, just more recipes.
I mean, the aspect with the witches and when to trigger them is fun in and of itself. But yeah, the which size was it? The pumpkin that's like ridiculously large. It's like
So 6 size pumpkin.
6 size pumpkin, which is wow, you're advancing so much further on the track.
Yeah.
And I
fun.
really love.
I like it.
It's a lot of fun.
And the big box just came out recently, also.
Yeah, that's true.
But I mean, if
It's a good entry point. If
Yeah,
you're-
or if the second expansion is not worth it, like the base game itself is so much fun.
Oh,
And the kitty box, apparently, as well.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Quacks and Co. Yeah,
Quacks and Co., which I don't know.
I ended up getting it for my friend whose kids were quite young, and apparently they loved it.
Oh, nice.
Both the
Nice.
family and the kids. So
awesome.
told them like that when they're done with that, here's the advanced version. But no, they really liked it. So.
Yeah, it's
Nice.
a great game.
All right. So my number 3 is it's a fairly new game, and it's a big, unwieldy box with a bunch of extra stuff that
Mhm.
you don't really need, but it's great.
It's good to have.
It's good to have.
Oh, just one box, or is there multiple boxes?
Oh, there's multiple
I
boxes.
think I know which one this is.
There's multiple boxes, and it's one that I deliberated on so many times, so many nights, looking at on Kickstarter. I'm like, do I do it? Do I not do it? Do I need another 7 boxes on my shelf? And I said no. And now I'm kicking myself for not doing it because I love this game so much. This is Massive Darkness 2.
Oh,
There it is.
It's my favorite dungeon. I love dungeon crawls. I grew up playing the dungeon crawl video games. Like I grew up playing Diablo, and this is my favorite dungeon crawl of any that I've played.
Nice.
And because it gives me the closest feeling to playing a board game version of Diablo. You get so much. You build a dungeon. You take a character. You're going through it. You're rolling a ton of dice to the point where you have to roll them in 2 hands.
Mhm.
Like you can't just use one hand to roll these dice. There's like a bunch of dice, and you're just wiping out mobs of enemies and always getting loot. And the loot's usually really cool, and it's a self-contained experience. You can play it as a campaign if you buy the campaign box, but you don't have to, nor do you really need to. In an hour and a half, you can go from level 1 characters to level 5, and you get so powerful. And the coolest thing about this game is that every character is basically its own minigame. So, like, if you play the Ranger, you're playing a push your luck game where you're drawing cards and looking for a certain number of arrow symbols. And if you draw too many arrow symbols, you bust and you misfire, and bad things happen to you. But if you hit exactly 7 arrows, you get a whole bunch of extra stuff you can do with your attack. Or if you're the wizard, you have a magic dial where you can set the dial to whatever you want every turn to do a different spell. If you're the berserker, you're using every time you get wounded, you're using that to fuel your rage, which makes you more powerful. There's extra boxes that add extra characters, add extra minions, extra bosses. But like every time I play this game, I'm like, oh, I want to play it again. I want to play it tomorrow and the next day. It's so much fun, and I finally managed to condense it all into like 2 boxes.
And great sculpt on the minis.
The minis are phenomenal.
yeah.
I mean, it's CMON, so the minis are amazing. But they are kind of sharp, so
Very pointy.
not as sharp as like Zombicide minis. Those will poke your eye out, but they have some sharp edges. But they are excellent minis.
And I gotta give kudos to Simon for having the option of like, all right, you have Massive Darkness 1, which did not have the mini games, was nowhere near as good of a game. Here's the upgrade kit, so you can use all this stuff with these new rule sets, and it's so much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that one. It's great. All right, number 3, my third favorite game of all time. I feel like this one's been on my list since I discovered it and played it and I had to run out and grab a copy. It's huge, it's long, it's shorter with the expansion, and it's also a crossover of Nibelheim.
Oh, yeah.
This is Underwater Cities.
Yeah, as soon as we played it, I'm like, okay, I gotta buy this game.
Yeah, there's just something about it. It just clicks. There's something about like the way you're building out your city, which is essentially engine building. Like you're getting more and more resources.
Yep.
But then now that you have that pool of resources, you have to make it last for the next 4 rounds.
That's
and
right.
like, how do I expand my city the most efficient way possible while also fighting over the very limited worker placement spots with everyone else is playing? And then that card pairing. I don't have any red cards right now, but I really want to take the red action. So do I wait and do a yellow action instead, just so I can pair that card up, or and I hope I get a different card? And then if you feel like when you can match things perfectly, you feel smart doing it. You feel like, okay, that's good. I was able to do this card and do this action, and then now my city's bigger. I'm going to get more stuff next round, and it's going to be great. And then the scoring is different. Your objectives and things are different. There's plenty to love in here.
Yeah, and the solo mode is also really good.
Solo mode is very simple,
but it's hard, it's challenging, but it's so much fun.
Yeah, it is a beat your own high score, but there's a limit to you need at least this much stuff, and this much points.
So you're trying to hit an objective. It's not just to beat your high score. You have to get a minimum score.
True. That's what I mean. Like it's a minimum, which even that is hard.
It's hard, yeah.
So yeah, I love it. Number 3.
Number 3.
Still need to play that one.
It's really good.
While I'm away, you guys can play. Number 2. We are up to number 2, and this will come as a surprise to everyone on this panel. I think, or
really?
At least the people that I have been
surprised of how high it is, or
surprised with how low it is.
Oh, how low it is! Oh no! Oh.
This game is a Viking themed game.
It's
what? No way! Oh my gosh!
Okay. And this game has gone 1-2 for me with my number 1, which you guys will figure out once I tell you my super.
Fire and Axe went down that far?
Well played, sir.
It's replaced number 1.
That's number 1 now. Exactly. Fire and Axe. Yeah.
Champions of Midgard has now gone to my number 2 slot with a lot of deliberation between number 1. So this can easily go back to number, but for now it's at my number 2 after holding the one spot for several years.
Wow.
Champions of Midgard, especially with the Valhalla expansion and Dark Mountains, if you want to add it in. But the Valhalla is really what elevates this game. Again, this has everything that I enjoy about board gaming. Dice rolling, variable powers, set collection, worker placement, secret goals. Like it's what if you were to make a custom board game for me? This is what, at least when I got into the hobby, I love it, and the Viking theme obviously it resonates with me as well. It's got beautiful art. It's enjoyable. It's got tense decision making, where which workers do you want to use to send to battle, or warriors you want to send to battle, which ones do you want to save for the troll, or do you want to even fight the troll, or do you want to fight other monsters that give you sets, which are points at the end of the game. Do you want to go for strategies that work well with your character, or do you want to do stuff that's unrelated but fun? You want to build your boat. So it's got everything that I enjoy in board games, and it's always a good time for me. But I'll talk about why number 1 was a little bit higher for me. But Champions of Midgard.
I think I can guess which one it is now.
Yeah.
I will say the Valhalla was just a great example of like one of those essential expansions that just fixes something in the game and just elevates it so much.
It does. And it gives you a purpose for your warriors to actually die in battle.
Exactly.
Sometimes you want them to die in
Mhm.
battle.
A lot of the time you want
and then you can't kill them.
Yeah. Well, you want them to die, don't die.
Yeah, you keep rolling shields.
Yeah.
And, like,
Yeah.
You were supposed to die in
supposed to
battle.
die.
Go to Valhalla.
Just go all berserkers.
Yeah.
All berserkers, they have to die.
It's all berserkers all
But
the time.
it takes like a thing where it's like, oh shoot, I missed this, and now everything's bad.
Yeah.
You're like, this is awesome now. Like,
Yeah.
That's true.
brilliant.
I don't get to do
Brilliant.
this thing, but I guess I get to do this other
now
cool
on-
thing
Or maybe
too.
I want
Have
to do
glory
this
in the
thing.
afterlife.
Yeah.
Right, exactly, yeah.
They're just brilliant.
Yeah, it removes those feel bad moments where
Yeah.
you just are set back.
All right, my number 2, and I'm going to list 2 here because it's basically just the same game with a re-implementation and new skin on top, is Ghost Stories / Last Bastion.
Ah, yes.
Mm.
I really love co-ops. And for something about Ghost Stories / Last Bastion, to me, is just kind of timeless the way that it works. It's just, we're so used to and it's basically tower defense. And I'm so used to co-op games being the stem the tide, like from Pandemic, and this has that too. But there's something about it. Just like each location has an ability where you go and trying to fight off the ghosts and not getting overwhelmed, and it's hard as nails. I've beaten it a few times, and I sorely missed the app implementation because it got destroyed when Apple's 32-bit to 64-bit conversion happened,
Yep.
and it's never been redone since then in any digital form. But I absolutely love it. I've actually painted my Last Bastion. I haven't painted Ghost Stories yet.
You have them both?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
I like it that much.
Wow. Do you find that you play one over the other?
I kind of like the theme and the look of Ghost Stories more, but there's a few bits of streamlining in Last Bastion, so it's kind of just dealer's pick in terms of like, all right, I feel like this version this time.
Interesting.
But yeah.
I would like to
enjoy
play that game with you just because you probably will teach it.
Yeah.
Nabil and I tried
We
it,
tried.
and the rule book just
it. Yeah,
didn't give us.
for such a small rule book, it is
the word
surprising.
atrocious comes to mind.
Yeah,
It wasn't good.
No.
Good, but I don't know if Last Bastion improves the rule book at all. But,
Yes,
okay.
yes. Yeah, I really love it. I'll try teaching it, and
I would
we'll
love to play it. Yeah.
We'll both Last Bastion so I can show off my nice hand painted
Yeah,
ones.
yeah, I would definitely.
I
be
actually
down for playing
painted the
that.
skulls. But
Nice.
the one thing I'll say is what Last Bastion is missing is of the expansion content that Ghost Stories
I
has,
see. Yeah.
which has an interesting thing with the one of them, and the other one lets you play as the bad guy and ruin everyone else's day,
Mm.
which I've never played. And given how difficult it already is, I don't know if I
Yeah.
ever would unless people are like absolute pros at it. But it's nice that it exists.
So this is the bumbling intern expansion. what you're saying.
Yes.
Of Ghost Stories.
Oh man, that was a good.
All right, excellent. Okay, good pick. So my number 2 is also a crossover with Fran. It's a little higher than his.
Yes.
And it's one that I told myself I wasn't going to get into because I knew I would
yes.
get
Yep.
sucked
Here
in.
it is. Here it is.
And sure enough, I got sucked in and just went whole hog. This is Marvel Champions. I'm a huge sucker for the Marvel theme. I will try at least once, pretty much anything Marvel, like board gaming, anyways. It's just, for the longest time, I used to play a lot of Marvel Legendary, which is it's a deck building, cooperative Marvel themed game. But that one is a little bit more abstracted. Like you're not like Marvel Champions. You pick a hero and you really feel like you're playing that hero.
Mhm.
In every deck, every hero plays very differently. Every time they release one, I'm like, wow, they keep coming up with new ways to, interact with this system. You feel like you're playing through a comic book, whether you're playing a campaign or just a one shot. Doesn't matter. Like you feel like you're playing through a comic book, and like the narratives that get created from each play are just so interesting and so much fun. Even when you get trounced, I still have a great time playing it. I will say that I don't think it scales very well.
Yeah.
Above 2.
That's what I was thinking.
So like for me, I would only play at solo or at 2 primarily. It's already pretty hard a lot of times, and when you play with 3, the villain you're fighting gets so much more health. But like even though you have a whole other character doing things, it still feels like it's getting like proportionally harder.
Yeah. And it takes much longer with 3.
Yeah, it takes way longer.
So then you have to wait for another character to do their turn. So yeah, I'd limit it to 2 at the most, or just play solo.
Yeah, but it's so much fun, and for me, what hooked me was when they released the X-Men. The X-Men stuff. Just like I was like, yeah, okay, fine, I'm in. So there you go. Marvel Champions, my number 2.
Nice.
I guess I need to play more of that.
Or do you want to avoid it to not get sucked in?
Maybe I don't.
Yeah.
If they had the app version.
Well, when Fran's away, you and I will play a 2-player game.
There you go.
Yeah, Fantasy Flight Games make app versions of all your LCGs.
Yeah.
Well, even if there was like DLC in the apps for expansions, like just how fast it would go and how often you'd be able to play it, I think would be nothing but money. Considering they don't have to print anything or like that, I think it would go up. But
the art's already done.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the art in the game is phenomenal. Like it's so good as well.
All right, my second favorite game of all time is also my most played game of all time, if you count app plays, because I've literally played it over 1,000 times.
Yes, yeah.
And I played a lot in person, solo and multiplayer. Love it. This is a Race for the Galaxy, and specifically, I've only ever really played the first arc. I have not tried any of the later expansions, but I don't know if you even need that. You just need the Gathering Storm expansion to play solo. But the engine building, like the tableau building in this game, has so much variety and depth. Like in my 1,000+ plays list on the app, because you can play it in about 5 minutes on the app, or I've gone it down to about 20 minutes in person. But every single one of those times, different things have happened in unique and different ways. I found different interesting combinations. It has the mechanism that we all enjoy from games like Ares Expedition, where everyone kind of picks an action, you get a bonus, but everyone still gets to do the action. So that works, but it's even more tense in Race to the Galaxy, because it really matters then when like that person needs to produce and needs to produce, so you're going to let him produce and reap the benefits, and will you go and settle a new planet? Just like the combinations. This game has been an evergreen for me since I picked it up, 10, 12 years ago, whenever it came out, and before I even really got into modern board gaming. This was one of my first games. And,
along with Mage Knight and Gloomhaven.
Which I never really got deeply into any of them, but I'm glad I got this when I did, and it stuck with me. It's been just so much fun.
Now, is Race to the Galaxy the first game that does that card play mechanism, where like you do a thing and everyone pick a card and everyone else gets to do it?
Well, no, there's a whole story. Was it
San Juan?
Not San Juan. The
card version.
Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico came first.
San Juan was the card version. No,
so Puerto Rico came first and had similar card action selection, and then they were trying to they wanted a card version to it. I forget the designer, the Race for the Galaxy guys, basically pitched them this game, and they said, no, it's too complicated from what we're looking for. Thank you very much. Go ahead and do your own thing. And then they made San Juan. Mm-hmm. So Race for the Galaxy, meanwhile, also came out and kind of
did way better than San Juan.
Did way better than San Juan. Race for the Galaxy is still around.
Yeah,
and
it's a perennial.
Took it and made it into this like big complex, but still incredibly fast for the depth game. And I've got a playthrough and solo with Teach in the channel, so check it out.
Nice. All right, here we are. Number one. San Juan. Number
San Juan.
No, that's not number one. So number one is Nabil's favorite game, Monopoly.
Oh
no! The horror movie version.
The horror Monopoly. No, number one is a crossover with Nabil.
Okay, yes, I know exactly what this is.
He has a little bit lower on his list, but this does a lot of the same things that my number 2 game, Champions of Midgard, does, but I think it does it slightly. It's taken it up to a different level where the map is now modular. The factions are even more unique and asymmetric. You've got asymmetric workers that do different things. You can now build your tableau, which you get to do different things when you call back your workers. So I think it does a lot of the similar things that Champions
else.
does.
Oh, really?
I forgot that other game existed. So
Okay,
I thought this was Final Girl, but it's not Final
this
Girl.
is
I know.
Dwellings of Eldervale.
Yeah.
Of course.
Has now taken over my number one spot. The artwork in this game and the graphic design is just superb. And it just sings in a way that the other games don't quite do. But again, I've gone back and forth with this and Champions. I just enjoy that concept of chucking your dice and getting different abilities and improving your dice rolling capabilities. Champions does it in the case of unique dice. This one doesn't have unique dice, but you can certainly improve your dice through cards and monster abilities. So yeah, they do both good things respectively, but I think Dwellings has now supplanted Champions of Midgard for me as my number one game. Yeah, it is.
It's a great game.
I think it would be probably higher on my list.
Yeah.
But I found the solo mode to be a little fiddly.
Okay. Yeah.
Like the way that the ghost, you have to resolve their movement.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I found that it was a little bit difficult for me to figure out what they would do based on the rules as written.
It's not quite the same as playing against another player. Either,
No, it's definitely not.
right? It's almost its own game.
Yes.
Yeah. And I liked it. I enjoyed my play.
I enjoyed
but like
it
I encountered a few edge cases where I was like, well, it doesn't really say what the AI would do in the scenario, so I just have to kind of make up my own interpretation. Which, I mean, it's fine, but I wish it was a little bit tighter.
A little bit cleaner. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit cleaner. Yeah.
Great game.
There you go. Dwellings of Eldervale.
And maybe if I had the minis, it'd be better.
Right?
Maybe
higher up.
higher on your list.
Those giant minis, especially if you get
Especially with the
roar.
sound bass.
Yeah.
So necessary. But
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I would love to get those giant minis and paint them. But anyway,
yeah.
my number one is a crossover
Hey.
Oh.
with Ferran,
Yes.
and only with Ferran.
Oh.
It's another Bruno Cathala game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it?
Okay.
Yeah, I've been tempted to buy those really expensive coins for it, but
Oh gosh.
Right.
yeah,
Don't do it.
I know. It's Mancala with worker placement. It's 5 tribes.
Yes, it is.
I love it. It's got those. I mean, you got the genie powers. You've got that. It's just the movement is so satisfying of picking up all the meeples on one, dropping them, and choosing where you're going to put that last one to activate that ability, and just it is a very satisfying puzzle. My only problem with it, of course, being that it is so AP heavy. Like, if you play it with someone that has a lot of analysis paralysis, you're going to be at it for a very long time, because each move, there are so many possible moves.
There's lots.
There's literally billions of combinations, like, for every
Exactly.
board state.
And the board state will change dramatically when it's your turn. So you can't have someone who wants to plot out every turn. They have to be more like, all right, that looks good. You can have problematic plays of this. It's going to take forever. But
That's a player problem, though, I think, more than a game.
yeah.
Well, it's a bit of both.
it's a bit of both. I don't know how you get around the change of board state before your turn. Like, I don't think you can.
No.
Use
More
the stand timer from Codenames.
Or the official print and play solo.
Yep.
Which
I still haven't played this game, actually.
Oh, you need to play it.
Oh, yeah.
very
It is a lot of fun. It's really fun. It's neat. The expansion with the merchants has a lot of fun. I just really love it. And there's something about it. And I just love Mancala now after playing that. I'm like, all right, I love the whole Mancala mechanism. I started playing normal Mancala and these other games that also have it. And none of it had quite hit the same highs as 5 Tribes.
Yeah, fantastic game.
Nice. Yeah, still got to play this one. It's a gap in my repertoire, I guess. you'd say. Okay, so my number one is going to surprise nobody here.
No.
It is a crossover with Ferran. It is still my number one.
Yes. Someone has it on their number one.
But I am open to it not being my number one if something should come around that I like more.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is just Champions of Midgard.
Yes, it is.
It's also one of the first modern hobby board games that I really got into, and I kind of purchased it on a whim. I looked it up. I saw it on a board game website, and I was like, "Oh, this looks kind of cool. I like the art. It's Viking themed." And I immediately bought everything for it without ever having played it or looking at any videos or doing any research. And it came, we played it, and it was just like instantly blew our minds at how good it was.
Whoa.
And like my wife also loves it, and was, like asks to play it, which just makes it that much better. But like love the theme. I love the dice chucking, but with a good amount of strategy also. And the Valhalla expansion, as you guys said, is essential because if you have a bad dice roll, well, it's okay because now you have tokens to go buy something in Valhalla.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm not gonna talk too much about it because we've already talked about it at length. So yeah, Champions of Midgard. Absolutely love this game.
That's fantastic.
I immediately went out and bought it after the first time we played it.
Right, and that's the sign of a great game.
And then it's been on my number one.
Yeah, right. Like those games where it's like you play it once, and then you're already like looking on your phone. Okay, where can I find this game?
Please still be in print. Please still be in print.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you can't stop thinking about it
Right.
afterwards.
Yeah.
Well, this is my game I couldn't stop thinking about. Is the most complex game, maybe except for Mage Knight, but even though that's arguable.
You think Mage Knight is more complex?
I'm not. You know what? I'm probably not in terms of decision space. It's more complex. I think Mage Knight is more rules heavy, but I think this is more complex on terms of strategy.
Right.
Once you add in the expansions in a box that's big enough for a small child to crawl into, and this is Anachrony. This is especially the Infinity Box is absolutely huge. But I mean, even if you just had the base game. Like I'll get into the expansions, but even with just the base game, Mind Clash has just blown out of the park with the depth of the world they've created, how they've taken what's essentially pretty dry Euro style mechanisms and have woven it into something that is rich and living and thematic and with an interesting, unique story about the Voyagers from through time have warned us of an incoming apocalypse, and we're trying to prepare to escape through the multiverse or whatever. Like they're the art, the graphic design, the asymmetric powers, the silly miniatures that you put your workers inside to like ride the mechs into town.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I mean, it's unnecessary, but it's like they've just like turned up the dial on the thematic tie-ins,
and they keep doing that with like subsequent releases.
Oh, all their games are like that, but Anachrony is the one that I just something kind of just sings in my brain about the traveling back in time, which is essentially just a loan mechanism, but there's deeper integration to that. But then once you start adding in the expansions, I know some of them will crank it up to a extreme complexity level, especially with the Fractures of Time expansion as blinking, and now your worker can jump from one spot to another spot.
That literally fractured my mind.
That is because now you're thinking multiple venues of okay, what if he's also doing this and then he moves over there and I can move there, but then you're dealing with your machine falling apart and creating time vortexes or whatever it's called when things are going wrong. There's just so much to explore in this game, and I love it all. That is Anachrony. So I think we all have some pretty amazing lists. It's exciting to kind of hear what you guys like, and everyone has slightly different tastes. With some overlaps, so we think we've had
quite a bit of crossover.
Some expected crossover, some less expected crossovers. I've already done, and if anybody wants to watch them, my 100 to 21 without this group, and then of course we did our 20 to 11. So I'm not going to talk about games that had just fallen off or missed the list, but if you guys want to share a couple highlights of games that were almost there, but maybe need a couple more plays, or ones that were favorites for a long time that didn't quite make it anymore. Yeah,
one of mine that I was actually surprised didn't make it into my top 20. Was like a perennial favorite, and I played it a ton, and I got a whole bunch of stuff for it. Is Sword and Sorcery. Mm-hmm. I love the game. I love the variety that you can that is in the even just the core box. And the story is fun to go through, and it's dungeon crawl. But I find it's harder for me to get at the table. It's a bit more fiddly. Whereas something like Massive Darkness 2, I get right to the fun. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's more of a slow burn. Mm-hmm. Where you play the first scenario and you don't really get anything cool. in the first couple hours you
Right.
play. But then the more you play it, the more you go progress in that campaign, the cooler your character gets, and the more stuff you can do. Whereas Massive Darkness 2 is just like you play for 2 hours and you get like super beefy.
Right.
So that's one that I was surprised didn't make my top 20.
For my honorable mentions, I had a couple crossovers that just missed out in the top 20. So Role Player, I really enjoy.
Yeah.
It's just outside my top 20. Seven Wonders Duel and Seven Wonders. I actually like Seven Wonders as well, but obviously Duel is a little bit better if you're just with two. Scythe, he mentioned. Just One, you mentioned. One that wasn't mentioned, which I was surprised no one had, was Orleans. Or Orleans, which I really enjoy, but it is just outside my top 20, but I really dig that game. And finally, I'll mention one that I just recently got. We had a multiplayer playthrough of it, but it was really long, but I enjoyed it, the combat part of it. But then I played it solo recently, and I enjoyed it a great deal more because it was just me, and I was able to blow through it a little bit quicker. Witcher: The Old World.
This would be just missed your top 20.
Just missed my top 20.
Solo
It would
was
probably
that
be in
good,
my 30-ish range, but I really enjoyed this game. And if we could figure out a way to make it, play a little bit quicker, because it does take a long time to play. I think this would definitely inch its way up higher up my list. But it's really the combat. How they've implemented it is through comboing your cards, and you're building your deck so that it combos one after the other when you're playing it. Some cards have abilities that trigger when you combo them. It's a lot of fun, and it has a lot of content in the boxes as well that comes with the Kickstarter. So those would be a few of my honorable mentions.
There's a lot of games you guys already mentioned that weren't on my list due to the basically lack of amount of plays. It's like, all right, I know I loved Arnak. I've only had a chance to play it twice, so it's like, But a couple of ones that missed out that are somewhat lesser known, but I really enjoyed. Dead Men Tell No Tales. It's a fun co-op from King Klenko, and it's my favorite concept of it being you didn't use all your actions, pass your action to the next player, so that player will now have more actions.
Oh, nice.
So you can kind of plan with that. I thought that mechanism just really made it really interesting to me. How do you pronounce it? Ginkgopolis?
Ginkgopolis,
yeah. That one, it's a little bit obtuse, but when it clicks, does it ever click? Heat?
Oh, yeah.
I was really tempted to put that one on there.
Just missed out.
I thought it'd be on your list for sure.
I really like it, but again, it's one of those games that I haven't had enough plays of it, and I've yet to get it to the table solo. I really got to try it. But I think with more plays, it could definitely break into my top 20.
Another Bruno Cattal one I want to play more of before I put it, and maybe it'll rocket up the list if I play it with the expansion, Abyss.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I haven't played the full Abyss. I played the little conspiracy, whatever.
I enjoyed the
Conspiracy.
full
Yeah, that was good.
I know you liked it way more than I do.
Yeah, the Conspiracy Abyss, I gotta say, for such a small package, it's got a really interesting game in it.
Yeah, it was really good. I enjoyed it.
And another one would be, I decided to put just one instead, and this was close to there, was Werewords.
Oh, okay.
Which I'm not usually a fan of, like, hidden traders and all that, but it does it in an interesting way with 20 questions that even if you don't like that style of game, you can still enjoy it. Now, I know there's the issue with, there was this very similar game, and there's a whole amount of contention there, but anyway, I just love the concept of, it's like, okay, you've got 20 questions with some hidden, roles, and everyone... My favorite example is, someone's the werewolf, they're trying to throw everyone off the scent, so the question they asked was, is it green? Knowing that the word was chameleon. It's like, well, it's green sometimes, what's the mayor going to answer?
Interesting.
Yeah. It's a neat one. I'm going to skip past my top 100 because if you want to see my 100 up, you can view it. There's some that I know you guys are probably expecting to be somewhere in the top 100, but didn't make it. Like Bitoku.
Okay.
It's off your top 100?
It's not. It's like 106.
Oh.
I do love Bitoku, but the solo is a little bit too flowcharty.
Yeah.
And even though I tried it a couple times, it was just every I kept having to reference it. Never internalized.
Yeah.
And I think that is kept it out. I think if it was smoother, or if I played it more multiplayer, I think it would go up.
Yeah.
With that. That's one that I would have expected. Reavers was just out of the top 100, but I do love Reavers. Midgard is excellent. I'm not going to go into too many of those, but there's certainly almost all the games that you guys have mentioned were either somewhere in my top 100s already, or just below it.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the games that I think might even make it in my top 10 if we finally get around to finishing it would be Sleeping Gods. I loved our initial play of it. You know, I often find that games that are really heavy on narrative and story, the story gets in the way of me playing the game and my fun. That was an exception.
Yeah.
So I think if we can ever find the time to finish Sleeping Gods.
We need to, before you go on vacation for sure, we got to finish off.
But one thing that I sort of discovered as I was making these lists is I realized that how much like my ranking of these games is strongly tied to my solo experience with them.
I see.
More than I expected. I don't know if you guys experienced the same thing.
Oh, for sure.
But like if a game,
it's raised them for me.
Yeah, if a game has a good solo mode, it raises its ranking for me. Or if it has a not a great solo mode, but the multiplayer is awesome, it brings it down a little bit. You know. So yeah, that was one thing that surprised me when I was making these lists is how much emphasis I put on a good solo mode.
I think it was number of plays really emphasized my list. Like, well, if you really like it, you're going to end up playing it more. So, a high number of plays, it's a good chance of being high on your list. One that no one's mentioned yet that I think is probably near everyone's list maybe would be Guild of Merchant Explorers.
Oh, yeah.
That was close to my list.
So it'd be somewhere in my top 100, maybe not like...
No, not
maybe like
20, but
maybe like somewhere in my top 50 maybe, or...
Yeah, it's a good honorable mention.
Go back and watch previous episodes.
Oh, yeah.
For me, it was more memorable moments. What qualified these games in my top 10 is like if I can remember good times while playing these games. It's not necessarily if they had a solo. Obviously, solos helps because you can play it on your own if you don't have a group. But if even if it's multiplayer and you had the fury moments or the dice chucking moments where one die of 6 beats it's 5 dice of 5, in dwellings. Those types of moments where you can stand up at a table and you remember that, months after you've played it. That's why, these games are as high as they are in my list.
Extracting the water from the workers in Anachrony.
Don't think too hard about that.
I mean, same with Frostpunk. Don't think too hard about
Frostpunk.
What happens in Frostpunk.
Frostpunk is just as bad.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks so much for watching our top 10 and even top 20 favorite games of all time. Please let us know in the comments who do you think has the best list, or who do you identify closest to. We are all pretty varied in taste with some overlaps.
Yeah.
So please like and subscribe. It helps the channel grow, and go out there and take a minute and play some more board games.
See you soon.